Welcome back everyone. Today we're gonna do the player HUD. So what we can see on our player when we play, so the health and all the other things that we want to put there. So we're gonna jump right into it. So we're gonna go to our UI once again, and here we're gonna create the UI that we need. So right click in the content browser, go to user interface, and we're gonna select the widget blueprint. From the widget blueprint, we'll just get user widget. We're gonna call that WB for our widget blueprint. Underscore is going to be our player and underscore HUD. And we can press twice on enter so we can go right in. From there, once more, we're going to do a canvas panel. So we're going to search here in the palette canvas panel. And just drag and drop that to our widget blueprint player HUD. That I can just notice that I did a mistake by spelling it. So I'm just going to correct that right now. So I'm just going to correct this so it's called correctly. Oh my goodness. Getting impossible to fix that. Right click and rename and player. Here we go. Perfect. So we have our canvas panel right here. So we need something for our alt. We can put the alt wherever you want. So we're going to search for a horizontal box here under palette. So just search for horizontal. We're going to take horizontal box and just drag and drop over the canvas panel like so. And from there, we can select our horizontal box. We can rename that just to make it a little bit more sense. Instead of having a number here, I'm going to call that alt. So, and from that, I want the horizontal box to be on the below left corner. So I'm going to anchor that to the below left corner. As you can see now, it should be right there. By having the horizontal box selected, you can see here the position. If you click on the arrow, it's going to reset it down here. And now you can manually place it where you want. So I'm going to place it around here. I'm going to make sure that it's the size that I want. So I guess I'm going to put around this size, or so we can always play with that later. It's not a big problem. So from the horizontal box here, we're going to put a text in it. So just search for text, take the text, drop that to our horizontal box like this. And that text, we're going to name it. Obviously, we're going to take the text here, and I'm just going to remove the number, and I'm going to call that health. Okay. And we have the text here selected. So we have text blocks. I don't want text blocks. I want to show health. So I'm just going to type health for text here under content. And now we can see that we have health. Right. So from the horizontal box selected, once again, we're going to search for a progress bar. And we're going to take our progress bar. I'm going to drag it to the horizontal box. So it's going to go next to our health. By having the box selected, the progress bar selected, I'm going to change the number one more and call that health and just type. And I'm going to put fill, so it should fill up the box that we have here. And we should be all set for that. So now we have the progress bar and we have our health. So that's look like this. Obviously, you can, change the text box, put a color if you want. You can put green. Oh, let's go put green. So it's gonna look better. And our text will be green. So well, I guess, or maybe the text will be red actually. So progress bar, and the progress bar, you can fill opacity here, and you can put whatever you want. So you can put it red if you want, or green, or the color you want. So I'm gonna put it red. So when it's full, it's gonna be red. Okay, we're gonna compile that. So we have our health here, showing there. I'm just gonna reselect the health, just do a little space and 2 dot, just look a little bit better. And obviously you have your horizontal box here, so you can always check size to content, and it's gonna fit perfectly. But you can see that the progress bar is getting squished, so it's not what we want. Okay, so we're just gonna unselect that and just do it manually, and you can drag that as long as you want. Okay, so we're gonna compile that. So now when we're gonna play, we're gonna see our player right here in the middle, and our health will show in the bottom left corner. Okay, from there, we're gonna go to our player character, and our player character is right here. So player. So we created the pause menu earlier. This time we're going to make our player HUD appear on the screen. So I'm just gonna close the pause menu, the context mapping, and the other AI pause menu because I didn't close it for this video. So from there, we already have an even begin play with that player here. Remember that we have the even begin play and we cast to our controller to make our action appearing so we can click our keys. So from then here, we can drag. I'm going to drag from 2. You can drag from either of them, no big deal. I'm going to drag from 2 because there's something later on that I'm going to put in 1 here. So I'm just going to go in 2, drag from there, and I'm just going to create our widget. And from this, we can now select our widget blueprint player HUD that we have on the top here, which will be right there for us. So we're going to select this. So as we did previously in the other video, we create the widget, so now it's going to be created, and we want the player to be able to see it. So we're going to drag from the return value and just add it to our viewport, like so. It's right there. And before that, we're just going to move that out of the way. We're going to create a reference to that widget, right? We can promote to a variable right here. So if you drag from return value and let it go, you have promote to variable. Select this, plug all that together, and you can even drag like this. So instead of having that right here, right, you can just have it like this. Okay, we're gonna rename that value here, not as a new variable, but we're gonna call it as player HUD. So now we know that this is a reference to our player HUD. So later on, we're gonna use this to do certain things. So it's why I created the reference. Okay, so now if we compile and play, we should have our player HUD appear on the screen. We have health, but we don't have any value here so far. So we're going to rectify that, obviously. So we're going to create another custom event. So just right click and create custom event. That custom event will be called update HUD. Okay. So from the update HUD, we're going to take our as player HUD. We're just going to drag it there. So now this, when we drag from that, is going to give us access to all the information that we have on our player HUD right here. Okay, that's why we created that reference. Instead of dragging from there, we have the reference here. So now we can access certain value from it. So we're going to drag from that, and we're going to search for our progress bar. We want to access to our health progress bar. And if we drag from that, we're going to set %. Okay, we're going to plug that together. So now you can see the percent is 0. We're going to rectify this. So we're going to drag from that. And we're going to do a divide. And you can just search for divide. There we go. We're going to take the operation here. So the first number will be connected to health, but we don't have any health variable here. So we're just going to create one very quick. So basically the health variable will be used later on to tell the player how much health you have and how much you lose when you take damage and all that jazz. Okay, so we're going to drag from the variable, not drag, but we're going to create a variable here by clicking on the plus to the panel right here. Okay, click on this and we're going to search for, we're going to type, not search, but type health. And here we can see it's a boolean, but we don't want a boolean because it's green, and green refer to float. So we're going to click on this. So now we're going to be able to change the variable type. We're going to take float, and now this is a float for us. We're going to compile, and now by compiling is given access to the health variable right here. Okay, that health variable will be 100 as usual. Okay, so now the 100, and now we can take this variable, drop it to the board, do a get, and we can plug it up here. And we're going to divide by 100 because we want a number from 1 to 100, and the percentage bar. So that progress bar here is working from 0 to 1. Okay. So if we go back there and we just select the progress bar here, and if you move it where it is right here, percentage 0, you can see that it's just go to 0 to 1. You can see in the bottom corner right here that when I move that, it's filling up the color that I decided, but it's 0 to 1, and us, we want to see from 0 to 100, right? You can leave it as is if you want to see point health form. You do whatever you want, but I'm just going to divide it by 0, by 100, so we can see 1 to 100. Okay, so we're going to select all of that. Press C on our keyboard to access, to create a little comment, and we're going to type update widget. It's going to be our blueprint widget, and it's going to be for the player HUD. Okay, so why I'm doing this is that instead of, you probably watch other videos, obviously, some people, take the bar here and bind it, and it's go to an event tick. So every frame is verifying how much health you have. So as you already heard a million times, probably it's taking more resources. So we're not gonna do this. We're gonna do that to another way to do this. So we're gonna kind of do an event tick, but we're gonna control the speed of it. So instead of every frame, we're gonna do that every few seconds, okay, or every 0.2 seconds, something like this. So it's gonna save in resources, okay. But we're gonna do that later on. So now we have our health here. So we're gonna compile and do play, and now you can see that our health is full because we created the little event, custom event right here. Obviously, you could, put that to a macro or function here, or you can do that different way. But just for that series, I like to be able to see everything when I open my character blueprint, especially when you're not used to Unreal. It can be complicated to have just an even custom event like here, and having like just one note here saying, oh, it's a function, and you have to go in the function, and the function, when you open it, it's look like this, right? And you have no idea what it's doing exactly. But when you put directly right in your character, it's easy as a new person, as a newcomer, to look at this and be like, okay, I understand a little bit better because it's right in my face. I don't have to dig anywhere in functions to find what is doing what, right? So by seeing it like this, I find it's a little bit easier to find. So we're gonna have our custom event um, comment box here. We're just gonna select show bubble. So when we zoom out, we can read what it's doing. We're gonna do the same thing for our pause menu because we didn't do it last time. There we go. We're gonna compile and we're all set. Now we have access to our health. When you do play, we see it here. So if we were putting our L to 50% and compile and play now, we can see that we don't have anything here. The reason is because we have created this, but we didn't tell the game, hey, update this, okay? So we're gonna go back here when we create our widget blueprint or player HUD. We created, display it on the screen. We want to call this custom event to be able to do that little calculation for us and be able to see the health on the screen. So we're going to drag from that, and we're just going to search for, what is the name again? Update HUD. So we're going to search for update HUD. So now we create a menu, and it's going to update HUD for us. We're going to compile and play. So now we can see we have 50%. And if I change my L to 100, whoops, I'm going to put my to 100, compile, play. Now we have 100. Okay, so you see the point. So every time we change a number here and we do play, it's showing up here in the bottom left corner. Okay, so later on when we're gonna take damage, you're gonna see that bar going down or going up if we take health and things like this. Okay, so for now I'm gonna leave it as is. and I'm gonna conclude this video. Hey, welcome back everyone. Today we're gonna see how to put the weapon in the hand of our character. Well, in that case, the cube, obviously. We don't have a player character. We use a cube for now, but the same principle will apply. Um, so we're gonna start right into it. So the code is already done. I recorded the first time, had an issue. I didn't want to record everything back again. So what I'm doing, what I mean, I'm recording it again, but I didn't want to redo everything. So everything is already set up. I'm just gonna explain and go through. Okay. So here we have our cube for our player character. So what I did here, I took our player character that we have. I went to the static mesh, and the static mesh that I have here is this cube. So I browse to it, which I am able to go in. So keep in mind, depend on the cube that you're using for your player character, you may not be able to save. Okay, it's why I changed for this cube, because by default, I had another cube. So I'm gonna show you which cube I had by default. I believe I had the cube here from the engine basic shape, and because it's the basic shape, I could not save and modify it. So what I did, I just selected another cube. So in this case, the SM cube underscore 2. Okay. So you browse to this cube or the cube that you have. You're gonna double click on the cube. Now we have the cube here. So we have to add this grip point here. So what I did, next to the detail panel, you should have socket management. You click on the plus, and it's gonna give you access to a new socket. Name this socket grip point, and you place it wherever you need. And by default for this, it should be right in the middle of this cube, and we should be fine with that. So you can now do files and save this cube. Okay, we're gonna go to our player. In our player here, we have to create a new variable. So if we go under variable here, click on the plus, we're gonna create a Boolean variable right here, and we're gonna call it player dead interrogation mark, and we should be all set. Now you can save and compile and make sure that the default value of the Boolean here, it's not checked. So when we're done with this, we're gonna go to our blueprint pickup rifle. Okay, so to access the blueprint pickup rifle is under content. Go all the way down, we go to our first person template. It's under blueprint, and we have our pickup that we're gonna use, our weapon component, and the ball that we're going to shoot. Okay. If you don't have access to the first person template because you don't have it in your project, you can click add feature and content pack, and you're gonna have access to the first person template. Select add to project, and it should be all good to go to follow along. So now we are in the pickup rifle. Okay, so we have the overlap for the pickup rifle. So if we go in the viewpoint here, we have the weapon that is default by the first person template. We see that red sphere around, that's the collision that we're using. So if we go back to event graph, that's this one here. So from that, we're going to drag from other actor. So everything that you have here, you can remove it. And we need having something exactly like this. You're going to drag from that. You're going to cast to the name of your character. In my case, it's player. When you have the cast there, you're going to drag from here, and you're going to create a new variable by promoting it. You name it the way you want. I left that as default as player because we're going to use that as reference later. And here you should have some stuff in the middle. You can delete it and put it exactly like this one. So we go and take our skeleton gun, just make sure that everything is plugged the same, and we destroy the actor when we have pick up this weapon. Okay, so you should have something like this. So we're gonna go through run again. Very, very simple. Okay, there's nothing else here to do. Now we're gonna make our way to the weapon component, which is next to it. So right here. Here we have a little bit more modification to do. Okay, first of all, it's gonna go to the event begin play, and we're going to make it like this. So to do a sequence, you go you hold S on the keyboard and left click, which gives you a sequence. Make sure from the get owner, you're going to drag and cast to your player and do a reference to your player as well, just by dragging and promoting. You're going to hold B on your keyboard to do branch, and you're going to connect this branch to the attached weapon component. Here, from the reference, you're going to drag and you're going to go search for the static mesh that you have here, which is your cube in my case. So whatever you have here, you're going to have to target this by dragging, and in my case, it's static mesh. And if you go all the way down, you have the get static mesh, so it's exactly this one that I'm using. Now we're going to connect this to the parent. The target for the attached component will be self, and the grip point, it's important that it's the same name as you have here. I'm going to go back there, make sure it's snapped to target for all the rules, and everything after the attached component to component can be disconnected by just holding Alt and right clicking. So it should be something like this, hold Alt, and you should be all set to go. So we can leave it there, or you can delete it if you don't want it. Okay. So we're gonna go down here. Now, as you can see, I'm using an action. You should have like shoot or something like this. I change it for attack. So we're gonna start with that by creating the new one that I'm using. So I'm gonna go to our content browser. I'm gonna go to my control mapping. You can see here I have IA attack. I'm gonna right click, input, and you create a new input action that you're gonna name IA attack. I'm gonna open it, and here the description I put attack, and everything else is by default. So I did no further change. We can save and exit. Now we're gonna go to our mapping system that we have. So it should be in the same folder, my input mapping system. Open this, and now we're just gonna put some stuff down so you can see exactly what's happening. So attack here, I press on the plus here, and you're gonna have an arrow that you just click on it. So what I did, I select the left mouse button to shoot, my controller trigger, and the space bar for the keyboard. When you have that selected, expand, under trigger, click plus, expand for having access to the index, and we're gonna get pulse. So there's multiple option here. I decided to get pulse. So basically, if you hold it down, it's just shooting at an interval. So it's exactly what I want. And you can expand that, and you can even put the interval that you want to shoot your weapon at. Okay? If you want to shoot faster or lower, you just change that value right here. You're going to repeat the same process for all the other input that you have to shoot. So in my case, the gamepad, which is exactly the same as you can see. And I repeated the same process for the spacebar. Okay? So we're just going to put that back like this so it's a little bit easier to read. So from there, we're going to go back to our weapon component. We're going to change the one that we have that and replace it by IA attack. Just right click, IA, and just search for attack. We're going to take the ancient action event attack right here. And we're going to change what we have connected here. We're going to put a branch, Alt B on the keyboard, left click. And from there, we're going to take our variable for as player. Okay, we should have it created right here. So we can just take it from the variable on the side here and just drag and drop, do a get, drag from it, and we should have access to our player dead Boolean variable that we created earlier. Plug that to the condition. So if our player is dead, won't be able to shoot. If the player is not dead, we'll be able to shoot. Okay, so we're gonna drag from false, so maybe saying that if the player is dead, which is true, nothing's gonna happen. And if it's false, this means that we're alive, that we are going to continue the code. Okay, Go to all the way down here. You should have something here, a skeleton or static mesh, whatever it is here. We don't need that. We need to take the reference that we just created. So you should have something here like target is the management camera or something around those lines. We have to replace it by the get actor rotation. So we're going to take the as player, put it there, drag from it, and we're going to replace the target management rotation to get actor rotation. Just drag from it and just get actor rotation, which is right there. And you're going to plug this back the way it is. It should be, I think the only modification is down here. Plug it back that way. Gonna move all the way down. This is just mean that we're spawning the location of the projectile. We're spawning the projectile at the location that we want and applying the rotation that we need to. So from the spawn actor here, we already have our blueprint, which is the first person character projectile that we're using. You can replace that by whatever you have, but in this tutorial we use this one because it's already done for us. And here it's just the sound that we use. Everything else after this point can be removed and we are all set. Okay, so now we're going to go to our projectile character, which is once again right to our first person character folder. Under blueprint we have projectile right here, so we can open that. So everything here, it's by default. You can change the number here to 10. It's depending on the velocity you want, obviously, for the ball to go. So you can play with that number and see what suit you the best, and everything else should be good to go. There's also some modification that you can put here. You could put like every time you shoot the ball, change color. We're not gonna go over that, but if you wanted to have a little more dynamic color on your ball instead of having a yellow ball always, when you shoot, you could implement something here with a dynamic material instant, which will change the color randomly every time you shoot. You don't have to do that, obviously. I'm not gonna do it in that tutorial, but we're all set now. So if we go to our map and we do play, now we have our character here, our little cube. So if we go over the weapon, it's gonna pick up the weapon. You can see that we have the weapon pickup because it's right here, right in the center of our character. Okay, so we're gonna go back 8 to go back and control our character. So if I press shoot, she'll shoot our character. So there's no sound here because I deactivated it, I believe, from my headset. But when you shoot, you can see that it's working. If you hold trigger, you can see that slowly it's shooting the ball that we spawned. So we can obviously go to our input action just to change the number because it's pretty slow and I would like that to be a little bit faster. So I'm gonna change the pulse of the trigger and I'm gonna put 0.5 so it's gonna shoot a little bit faster, and we're gonna try that again. Now I'm holding, there we go, it's a little bit better. Okay, so that's pretty much how you do this. You can change the size of the ball. I think I'm gonna put that a little bit smaller. So if we go to, it's gonna be on the weapon component here. See, we have the scale, so we can change that to 0.5. And now when it's gonna spawn our ball, it's gonna be a little bit smaller. So let's try that again. As you can see here, the ball is a little bit smaller. Okay, so you can adjust that the way you need to, and you can go from there. Okay, so that's pretty much this for this video. So we have been able to implement the pickup for the weapon that we already have in the first person template just by modifying a few variables. Now we can shoot. So we'll catch you on the next one. Welcome back everyone. Today we're going to implement the health system and how to take damage to our player. So we have our player blueprint right here. It shows something like this for you as well if you have been following the tutorial from the beginning. If you have not, you don't really need all of this to follow this tutorial. So what we're gonna have here right under our widget player blueprint that we update all the time when there's a change for health, we're gonna go right under and search for custom event. This custom event will be named health gain logic. Okay, so all our logic to gain or lose health will be managed by this. We're gonna use an event tick, not an event tick, sorry, a set timer by event to manage our health. So you may have already seen other tutorial from other location, and even on my channel I do have that as well, which is not the best way in my opinion to do your health. So we have the progress bar here, and you know that when we move this, it's moving the progress bar as you can see here on the screen. Most of the time, you're gonna see that you create a binding and you bind your health to this, but the problem and the issue that you encounter when you do this is that a UI, so this that is displayed on the screen of the player, is trigger every frame. So if you do 60 frame, it's going to be trigger 60 times. If it's 120 frame, it's going to be trigger 120 times. So by doing this, it's taking resources for nothing. So even when you don't have any health change in your game, it's going to still trigger to verify if you have any change, right? So if you have a lot of things that are displayed on your screen and every of your information on your screen here, you know, for example, kill player and points and magic and all that jazz. So if you have way too much, well, you're gonna be having some performance issue at some point because you have a lot of ticks that's gonna be in the background basically. So it's not gonna really help the situation to do something really performant. So instead of doing this, what we're going to do, we're going to go back to our player blueprint. We're going to use an event tick. So not an event tick, but it's work a little bit the same. So set timer by event. So by using this function here, so we can set how many time we want that to loop. So we want that to loop and we want an update every second. Okay, so you can play with that to the speed that you want your game to update your health. And what is great with that is that when our health is full or that we gain the amount of health that we wanted, we can clear the timer. So we can clear that event so it's not gonna play in the background anymore until we call it again. So it's saving performance and it's just, I think it's just a better way to do your health system than binding to your UI. Okay. So from the event here, we're going to create a custom event. So custom event that we're going to call game. Okay. So when we call that in our game, it's going to start this and it's going to activate this function here. So from that, we are going to all be on our keyboard to do a branch. First of all, to gain health, we're going to confirm that our player is not dead, right? Because if the player is dead, we don't want to have health. So if the player is not dead, so what we're going to do here, we're going to take health. So we're going to take our health that is here and we're going to set our health. Uh, Now our health is set to 0, but we're going to drag down and we're going to search for clamp. We're going to clamp this value to make sure it's not going over a certain number. So the value that we want, we're going to take the value and we're going to search for plus. So we're going to add a certain amount to it. So we're going to add 10 and we don't make sure that it's not going over our max health. Okay, so we're going to drag that right there. And our max health by default should be already at 100. Okay, so we're going to take our health here. So we can see we have 25 from the previous video. So we're going to put that at 100. Okay, from the start, our health will be full. Okay, so this, every time we're going to gain L, it's going to give us plus 10 here, but it's going to confirm that we're not going over the max of our health, which the max is here. So the max health is 100. So we're going to put 100 right here. Okay. So we set our health. We make sure that it's not going below 10, below 0 and max 100. And if it's not the case, it's going to add 100 to our health. Okay. So from that, when that is done, what we have to do when we gain our health, we have to tell the game, hey, we want to display the health right here, right? So to do this, well, we already have set up something here back in the previous video. We update our HUD and it's going to set our health according to what we have. So we're going to drag from that and we're going to call this function. So update. We're going to update our HUD. From the update here, we're going to hold B to do another branch. This branch, we're going to confirm once more. We're going to search for equal. We're going to make sure that it's equal to our health that we're going to plug in the first one up here, but no more than 100. And now we can take our timer here to drag from it and you can do clear our timer. And we're going to plug it like this, not here, like this, okay? So every time we gain L, we're going to call this. It's going to set this timer. It's going to call this function. It's going to confirm that we're not dead. If we're not, it's going to set our health no more than 100 and give us plus 10. It's going to update our HUD so we can see it here, what's happening in every second. Okay, so if you don't want that to be a little bit faster, you can obviously change the number here. And after that, we'll go in the branch. Once more confirm that our health it's equal to 100. If it's equal to 100, so health equal to 100, we're going to clear the timer. So until we're full, so if we have 10 life and we call this, it's going to regain our health until we reach 100. So we're not going over and we're going to clear the timer. Okay. So we're all good with this. So we're going to take all of that and we're going to press C to do a comment. And we're going to call that health logic and gain or lose health. Okay. For now, we gain health, but we could use that to lose health as well. Okay. So now we need a way to try this. So we need to be able to see if this function works. So what we can do, we can just go on the side here and we can search for number 6 for keyboard. There we go. Keyboard event 6. We're going to take this and we can call our health for gain logic. And when we press 6, we should see something happening on the screen. So we can even put a print string if we just want to see it in the corner here when we press. First, we need to make sure our health is not 100. So we can change the value of our health. You can click here if you want. And I'm going to put 10. So we're going to start with 10 health. So we're going to do play. So now as you can see, we have 10 health. If I press 6, it's going to trigger this function. And you can see our health is going to go until it's reached 100. Okay. And when it's 100, it stops. It's not keep going. Okay. You can see that it's working pretty good for us. So what we can do as well is before clearing it, just to show you what I'm talking about a little bit earlier. So if you do a print here, we're going to print the health. So we're going to start again. Now we have 10 health. If I press 6, it's going to Actually, it's not showing here. Yeah, let me see that. Oh, sorry. I didn't plug it at a good location here. So I'm gonna remove that from there, put it there. We're gonna set it there just to show. There we go. Now it should work. Press X, you can see our health in the top corner is going up, and when it's reached 100, it's gonna stop for us. So boom, stop. That's exactly what we want. We don't need any more than that. Okay, so because we're clearing our timer. Okay, so that's really important to clear the timer so it's not keep going non-stop. Okay, so we're gonna remove this. So we have that done. So now what we can do, we can implement the damage. Okay, so we're gonna just expand that box here. We're gonna click on the box and just show the bubble here so we can read. So from here, we're gonna call an even any damage. So every time we take damage, it's gonna call that automatically. So we don't have to set up anything else than this. So if an enemy or anything that do damage to our player, the game will automatically call that without us telling that, hey, you have to call this any damage event. So we're gonna take our elt, we're gonna put it here, we're gonna set our elt, we're gonna take from the elt here, we're gonna drag and search for minus or subtract, I should say. So subtract, and we're gonna subtract our elt, and we're gonna take the damage that we take and put it here. So every time we take damage, regardless of what it is, when we tell our enemy, if you do damage to a player, you're gonna do 10 damage. It's gonna feed the damage here, go right here. It's gonna minus this to our elt and set our elt to the new value. So when that happen, we need to tell our game once more to update our HUD. There we go. So we update our HUD, and we're gonna do a branch, and we're gonna make sure that it's less or equal. Okay, need to be less or equal to our elt. I'm gonna put elt on the top here, and from that we can call a function called dead here, right? So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna create it for now. I'm gonna create a custom event, just gonna call it dead, put it right here on the bottom. So now we can call this function dead. Okay, so let me go through this so you can understand. We take damage regardless of the number that we take. So if the enemy do 10 damage, it's gonna feed this value right here. It's gonna subtract the value to our elt, and it's gonna set our elt to the new value. It's gonna update our HUD so we can see it on the screen. After that, it's gonna go to the branch. It's gonna see that if we're less or equal to 0, if it's true, we are going to die. We're going to die, okay? If it's false, well, you could put a play sound here and put the sound that you want to say that you're taking damage. Okay, so I don't know, I'm gonna put invalid action. So I'm gonna zoom to that and invalid action, and I'm gonna press play. So it's gonna do this sound when you take damage. Okay, so we're all good with that. So we have to look that this is working as well. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna go right down to the side, and we're going to take a new number like, I don't know, 8. Gonna take 8, and from that we're just going to apply damage. As I said earlier, it's already, when we call this, it's going automatically to this. Okay, to apply damage, the actor that we want to target, for this case, just for this example, we'll target our player character. So we're gonna drag and just say self, okay, because it's already implemented in the player character, so we don't have to, take or cast to the player character and all that if you were doing to an enemy, for an example. So because it's already in the same, so we're all good. So when we press eight, sorry, it's gonna do damage. So we want to do 10 damage, and we can compile. So we can try that. So we're gonna do play. We have our character. We need to get our health. So we're gonna go and regain our health. So by pressing 6 on the keyboard until we reach 100. And now we want to take damage. So if we press 8, you can see that we took 8 damage. But you see there's a little error here. The timer doesn't clear up, so our health go up non-stop. Okay, so here we have a little problem. So we call gain, okay, and that doesn't cancel, doesn't clear the timer for us because here it's not connected. Okay, so we're gonna connect that here. There we go. So let's try again, make sure that it's working. So we're gonna do health, so just going up until we're full. And after that, we're gonna press 8 and see if it's resolved. You can see that now our health doesn't go back up. So if we keep going, every time we press 8, we lose some health. Okay, so we can see that our even damage is working good for us. But if we wanted to gain the health, what we're gonna do? Well, you could do the same thing as here. You can look for the number 9 this time, just to have a different key. You can still apply damage. Okay, we're gonna target ourselves once more. So self, and instead of doing 10, we do minus 10. Okay, so every time we're gonna do minus 10, it's gonna do reverse of this. So 2 minus together do a plus. So it's gonna give us some health. So if we do play, now I press 9, you can see that I'm gaining health. Right? If I press 8, I'm losing health. 9, gaining health. 6, auto regen. Okay? So you basically have the 3 function here to gain and, well, I mean gain health automatically until you reach a certain number, to get health by damage. So because health hits damage, so if you want to do health damage for undead game, for example, you could use something similar to this. So you can see that everything is working. So you don't really need that anymore. You could delete it or keep it. So we're just going to keep it here as example if we have to do more tests, or if you want to do some cheat codes in your game, you know, just to help you out or things like this, you can leave it as is. So we already done what we wanted to do. So our HUD is updating. We gain auto regen for our health, and we can take damage and receive damage as well. I mean, take damage for gaining health and losing health. So this will be this for this video. So we'll catch you on the next one. Hello everyone, today we're going to do our death logic. So when we have no more health, we reach 0 and it's going to trigger the death event. So on our event, any damage, we need to make sure that when it's true, we put our death here. Okay, so we have our death down here. So we're just going to search for it. Actually, I deleted it by mistake, I guess. So I'm just going to remove this one, create another custom event, and we're going to call that death. And now I can call my death here when I'm able to do it. Here we go. So we call death here, and we're just going to do a little logic for that. So it's very, very simple. We're going to S on our keyboard to do a sequence. And the first thing we're going to do is we want to, when we die, we want to be able that our movement for our character is no longer valid. So it means that we can't move our character when we're dead. So we're going to take the movement character here. We're going to drag it. And from the movement character, we're going to search for disable movement. And we're going to plug that to sequence here. Okay. So when we have that as well, it means that our character cannot move, but we can shoot if we still have gun or things like this. We'll be able to shoot. Won't be able to move, but we'll be able to shoot. We don't want that. So what we're going to do, we're going to search for disable input. By disabling the input, we won't be able to press any key on our keyboard to make any action or even on our mouse for our player, and target would be obviously our player character. Okay. From this point here, now that we can't no longer move and we can no longer do any input to control our character, we want to make sure that we're destroying the actor. But you don't want to destroy the actor because it's going to cause issue. It's going to change your camera of location, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to set. So we're going to search for set hidden in game, and we're going to target the mesh here. And we're going to take our mesh, just put it there. So we're going to make sure that hidden in game and that all the child that are under will be hide as well. From that, we're going to play a sound. We're going to do play sound. We can do 2D or at location. I'm going to use at location for this specific example because I need the location to spawn an emitter. So you could use 2D. 2D is just play everywhere in the level, and at location is going to play where your character is. So basically, if you have a multiplayer game, at location it's better than playing everywhere in the level. So just for this case, we're just going to use at location because I need the location here. So we're going to put a sound. So I'm going to put explosion. And right here, I select explosion. If you do not have explosion here, very simple fix. You're going to click here on content browser. You're going to do add. You're going to go to add feature and content pack. So you have access to those blueprints. We don't need that. So we want to go to content, take the starter content pack, and you can add to projects. So it's going to give you some textures. It's going to give you some props, chairs, door, lamp, color, sound, and even some particle system such as fire and things like this. Okay, so we're gonna take this and make sure you add that to your project. So now you can select explosion. Now we want the sound to play at a certain location. We want the sound to play that at the location of our mesh. So we could take our mesh and get the rolled location, right, and plug it right here. Okay, or even you could just disconnect that and just search for your mesh as well. You can go all the way down. Where is it? Or you can just drag it from here and boom, right? So you can do it that way, or you can take this one. It's not gonna change really anything because we're just hiding it. Okay, just to keep it simple, easier to read. Like this, I think it's easier to read than just have wires crossing everywhere. So from that now, we want to make sure that we have a certain little animation that play with that as well. So we're gonna do spawn emitter at location. The location that we want to use the location of our mesh where our cube is in the game. So we're gonna take the location, plug it right there, and we have the scale here. So the amount, how big you want the explosion to be. So here in the emitter template, we're gonna search for explosion. Right, and if we do play now, for example, I kill myself. Now we have a little explosion. If we change this number and we put, I don't know, 5, no, 51, 5, and 5, when I do die, you're gonna see that the explosion is way bigger. Okay, so you can decide how big you want the explosion to be for the specific animation that you're trying to do. From that, you could combine another of this to, let's do it just to show you. So we're gonna plug those two together. Gonna put the location here, and this time we're just gonna search for smoke. So when we explode, we're gonna have a little bit of smoke. I'm gonna put 2 so we can see it a little bit better. And I'm gonna make sure I compile and save. And now I can do play. And when I die, a little explosion, and there's some smoke as well. Okay. And when all that is done, we need to make sure that our player here say dead. Okay. And I'm gonna plug it right here, and we're gonna check the box here. If we don't do this, you remember from our health here. You know, when we gain, we confirm if the player is dead. If it's not, we're gonna get some else, right? So let's try it out without putting it. For an example, just to show you, we're gonna unconnect this. We're gonna do play. We're gonna kill our player. And if we do 6, is it working? You see, it's not working. That's good. We're good with that. That's perfect. So that you plug it or not plug it, that really doesn't change too much because we're already dead. However, just to keep it nice, because we're using it up there, I'm going to put it down here. If you want to use it for something else, that's going to be good. In that specific case, for now, that doesn't change anything, but probably later on is going to be useful to see and confirm that we're dead. Okay, so from that, we're just going to go all the way down. I'm going to take then for our sequence here, we're going to create a widget. So we need to create a widget and we need to display that widget to the screen. So add to viewport. Okay, so now we have to select a widget. So we have to create one. I just want a basic one saying that you're dead. So what I'm going to do here, we're going to create a new one. So very quickly, okay, we're going to go to our UI and we're going to take one here, user interface, widget blueprint. I'm going to select user widget and I'm going to call that WB for widget blueprint. You die, you can put the name that you want. We're going to open that. First from that, we're going to search for canvas panel. Just going to drag and drop down here so we have our canvas panel. We need text saying that you're dead. So we can search for text here. Going to take our text, just drag and drop right here. Now we're going to anchor that to the top middle because we want it around here. From our text here, we want to make sure that we select our text. It's anchored, the position is good. Okay, our text, we're going to put he died. So we have our text here. We can change the color. I'm going to put that to red. And I'm just going to make sure it's a little bit bigger. So we can just move that a little bit bigger. We're going to make sure it's size to content right here. And we want to align it to the middle. So if we put 0.5 in the alignment and 0.5 in the alignment, it's going to put it kind of in the middle. So now we can reset those values here. So now you can see it's really like in the middle. It's exactly what we want, but the text doesn't look very well. So we're just going to go all the way down here and we're going to go to the outline size and we're going to put 3. So now it's doing that black line around or you died and it's just look a little bit better. Okay. Now that we have that, we can compile. Now we can go back to our player character. Now we can select this new widget that we created. Okay, so when we die, it's gonna call this. It's gonna disable all movement, disable the input, hide the mesh, play a sound at this location, call the explosion so we can see the animation, and do some smoke, and set our variable to player is dead. And right after that, it's gonna create a widget and put it to the screen. Okay, so let's see how that works. So we're going to do play. We're going to make sure we died. Now you can see we died. We still have the other display in the bottom corner here for health. You could remove that if you wanted to. So you could probably just go to this one here and just remove from parent. You can do that reference as player HUD and you can remove it. So let's try see if it's work. So we're gonna take as player HUD, put it there, and we're gonna get and gonna say remove from parent, put it there, plug it there, and see if it's removing it for us. So compile, play. There we go. So now we die. We don't have the other widget in the background here. So it's up to you if you want to keep your widget in the background or not. You decide if you want this or not. I don't want it because I want to be able to, in the future, see my score in the corner, see how much poorly or well I've done in the game. So I want the UI to stay visible. So that will be pretty much this. So just before concluding this video, I'm just going to take all that, do a comment by pressing C, and we're gonna call that basically our depth logic. So just call depth. logic, and we should be all set. So now we have our elt that is working. We have no more elt called dead, and it's kill our player. We can no longer move our player, and we have some basic animation that go with it. So with this, I will leave you and catch you on the next one. Hello everyone, today we're going to work on our menu. So when we die, we were having this widget popping up. So now we're just gonna update this widget with few things so we can start a new game, we can see our control or go back to the main menu. So very simple here. On the side, we have our canvas panel and our text here. I'm gonna search for a vertical box. Just gonna drag that to the widget itself. So the canvas panel right here, and this box, we're gonna place this box right here in the middle. So we're gonna anchor that right to the middle right here. Now you can see it's facing the middle of our canvas panel. So the box still here. So to bring this box right there, we can just reset the position on X and Y. So like this, so we have that reset now. We're just gonna change the alignment to 0.5, so it's perfectly in the middle for us. Now it's in the middle. In that box, we're going to put a few things. So we're gonna put some button. So we're gonna search here for button. Here we're gonna take that, drop that on a vertical box. So we have our first button, and we're gonna call this button. We're gonna name it here in the detail. I'm gonna call that new, not new button, but new game button, btn. I'm gonna put 0. There we go. So our button is now name. So we need 3 buttons like this. But first we're gonna complete this one and just duplicate it so we can save a little bit of work. Now we're gonna search for text. Just take a normal text, drag it to your button right here. Now we have our text. Our text will be name new game right here under the text content. We're just gonna call that new game. There you go. Now we have new game, and we have our button here. So the button, we can select the color that we want. So I want a tint to be kind of a red, so I'm gonna put red. And when it's over, so when it's over with the mouse, it's gonna be red. That's exactly what we want. And we want some sound. We want some sound also when we press or hovered. So we're going to search for this one. We're going to search for VR and click. I'm going to take the number ones. You can obviously put what you want for this part. So I'm going to search for duckable, and I'm going to take the which one? I'm going to take, I think, drop. Yeah, this one. Take this one. So now we have our button set up and the color that we want and the sound that we want. So now our button is good. So we can just duplicate this one 2 more times. So just duplicate it twice. The second button will be our button for our controls. So we can call that controls and btn, and then we're going to put 1. And the other one, we'll name it quit and btn as well, and number 3. So button 1, 2, and 3. It's easier when we're going to do some coding here in the graph a little bit later. So we're going to now change the text. We have a new game for button number 1. I'm going to put the text of controls. So here in the content text, put controls. And the other one is obviously our quit button. But in this case, we're going to go back to the main menu. So main menu. So we have that. This I can see here. If we zoom, doesn't look good. It's not filling up. So we can go to our particle box, and here we can press size to content, and the box will take all the space that we want. Okay. So now we have another thing that we want to do is that when we look at the button here, we have no padding. So you can see there's no space. So on the button here, if you press, you can change some number here. So we're going to put 2 numbers, how we want the space between the 2. and on the edge. So here I'm going to put 20. And if you put 20 and you put a comma and you put another number as such, you're going to see that now we have a space of 20 on the side and 30 between. So we can repeat the same process for the two other buttons. So we're going to put 20, comma, 30. I'm going to do the same for the other one. So 20, comma, 30. Now our button will separate. Obviously, you can put the space that you want between, but I think that's a decent space. Also, we have our button. If you don't like the back color of your button, you can always change the color if you wish. I'm gonna leave it as is because I think it's not very important, the color for now. So we're gonna now see how we can program each of those buttons to do some action. So we're just gonna compile and save. So just in case, we can click here, save and compile always. So it's gonna save and compile each time. So we're gonna go back to our graph here. So we have our graph, and here we're gonna do our little code. It's gonna be very similar to what we already did before. So we're just gonna remove all of those nodes. We don't need it. So when we click on button, we want some certain action to be done here. Okay, so if we go back to the designer tab, if you click on the new game button, you can go all the way down. And here, when you click, it's going to do an action. So we're going to click on the plus here. Let's say unclicked. I'm going to click on this, and now we have our button. I'm going to repeat the same thing for control as well. So go all the way down, press unclick, and one more time for our main menu. Make sure we click on the button, go all the way down, and unclick. So now we have our three buttons that when we click, it's going to fire this and our code that's going to go right here. So from that, I want some custom event, just giving us a little bit more, how I say that, a little bit more flexibility for our action. Instead of everything fire up from that, we are going to fire that from a custom event. So we're going to do our custom event. Our custom event first one will be our new game button. Obviously, you can do everything from there if you want to. I just prefer it that way. So we're going to create another custom event, and this one will be our control btn, and the other one will be our quit button. So it will be very simple. So from the quit button here, we're gonna same thing, search for custom event, and we're gonna name this custom event our main menu button or quit button. Okay, now that we have that, we can call from each of those action here, we can call those custom event. So here we're just gonna drag and search for new game, which will have our new game right here on the top as such. And we're gonna do the same thing for the other control, and it should be on the way up right here. And we can select all that and press Q. So it's gonna align that perfectly. And we can search for main menu button, which is right there. There we go. So now every time we click on one of those three buttons that we have here, it's gonna fire up one of those and call this custom event that we have here and fire up the custom event that is right there. So we're gonna start by the quit or main menu button because it's the fastest one. So here when we quick click, we're gonna do a delay. You don't have to put a delay. I just prefer to put a delay because it's not snapping right to the back menu. It's gonna just take 0.5 seconds before firing off the main menu. So we're gonna search for open level. You can just do open level by name, and we want to open the main menu level. So we have our map here. We go to our content here, and under core, we have our level, and the first level, which is the main menu, is called main menu. So we're gonna name exactly that name. So main menu. So make sure that it's case sensitive. Everything is the same. So when we click, it should fire off this. From the new game here. Going to be a little bit the same. I'm going to drag and search for delay. You can put the number that you want. So I'm going to put 0.5 for this case. And we're going to get our player controller. From the player controller, we're just going to drag on the top here and set the input mode to game only. So we're going to select game only because we don't want to control a menu. We want to go play in our game. So, and from that, we're going to open a level as well. I'm going to search for Opal by name, and the level that won't open is the first map. So if we go there, we shall have our map number 1, which is map 1. We're going to call that map 1 like such. So now if we fire up this, it should fire up this one. And if we press quit, it should quit. Now we have our control button. So that one will be a little bit more gonna be different. We don't have a control widget yet, so we're just gonna create one so we can continue the code. We're just gonna create it, but not work in it. So we're gonna go back to our content browser, and we're just gonna go to our UI folder. So we have our normal menu, we have our main menu. So right here from side, we're gonna search for our user interface and user widget blueprint. And we're going to just create a user widget that we're going to call WB underscore controls. And that's it. So we're just going to open it. There is nothing in it for now. We're just going to make sure that it's saved and we can close it. So we can go back to our widget menu, not menu, but the widget die and do our control button here. So from that, we're going to just drag and create our widget blueprint. Obviously, you cannot do create widget blueprint because it's not going to work, but you can just search for create widget and we have it right here. So now we can go and select our control widget blueprint that we have. Oh, we already have one, I guess. Let me see where it is. Oh, yeah, we did one actually. This one. I totally forgot that we had one. Oh, here we go. Perfect. So in that case, we can take the one from the main menu, and we can delete the one that we just created. So we're gonna remove the one we just created, and we're gonna be able to take this one here. Perfect. I totally forgot that we had one. That's fantastic. Gonna save us some time. So we're gonna select our widget control here. And from that, we're going to make sure that we add that to our viewport. There we go. So now it's going to display this widget to the viewport, but we want to make sure that we're removing this widget from the screen. We don't want the other widget to go over this one. So we're going to make sure that we are dragging from that and we do remove from parent. So now it's going to remove this widget as it's a target self. And from that here, we're going to have to clear and validate timer by handle a little bit later. So now it's working with our mouse, but we want that also to work with our controller. Remember that in the main menu, if we go back to our main menu widget blueprint, we had our controller that we did a little bit earlier. So now we're interested in this here, all of that. So what we're going to do is that we're just going to copy and place it the way we need. And make sure that we're selecting this one as well. Okay, we don't need those one here because it's specific to this menu, but we want everything else that is on the top here. So we're just going to copy all of that to save some time and do some modification. Just Control C to copy everything. Go back to your widget UDIB, and we're gonna copy, and here you have all that. Just confirm we're doing nothing. There we go. So now we have everything. So we can try to move that down, but we have that a little bit stuck here. So we're just gonna move that on the top here a little bit less fast and bring back this box here. Oh my goodness. There we go. There we go. Now we have it. Perfect. So we have our normal button here, and we have the other one that we did in our main menu. So we're gonna have to do some modification. So we're going to start with the press button here. So this will stay the same. We're just gonna move here, and here we have some modification. So here you can see we have a new game button, which is already there, but the control button and erase and quit button is not the same. So we're just gonna remove that. Now we don't need this one, so we can remove it because we only have 3 on our menu. I mean 3 box here, or 3 button. So we have our new game and we have our control button. So now we can search for control button. Is it control button? How I name it again? Control button. Yeah, perfect. So we can go back there and search for control btn, and for our quit or our main menu. So main menu button. There we go. So now that it's fixed. So when we press, it's going to action one of those one here, which is going to fire off those one up here. So you can see why I did this, because it's easier to call from here than trying to get those click here. Okay. So we're going to modify the one here to make it work with our menu because we have some modification in it. It should be quite simple because all the code is done for us, so there's not too much we have to do. So the fade in for our menu, we can create that animation here. So we're going to go back to designer right here, and we should have a little animation. So we're going to create that little animation. So click animation. We're going to call that fade in. And same as we already did before, we're going to add a track, and we're going to select the entire canvas panel. So make sure we have the canvas panel selected here. Click anim, fade in, track in. Now we can select the canvas panel. From our canvas panel, we're just going to click on the plus here. So render opacity, we're going to click on this, and we have render opacity, same as we did before. We're just going to drag that all the way up to 2, and we're going to add a new key. So we have our first key. So this one, the first one here, I'm going to put 0, and the other one would be 1. So now, as you can see, so same as we already did before, very, very simple animation. There you go. So obviously we want to see our animation here, right? So by deselecting it before, we are able to see it here when we work. So we're gonna go back to the graph. Now we have our fading animation that is working perfectly here. So when it's getting construct that widget, it's gonna fire off that little animation. Okay, so here we just have to click on this and create a variable because we need to access this timer by using this variable. Gonna all the way down here we have button press. As we can see, we already have our button press down here, but when you copy paste, it's not taking that in consideration. So we're just gonna remove it, click back and search for button press. That should be right there. And now it's working for us. We're going to continue to our code here, and we're going to have a little modification down here. We only have 3 buttons, right? 0, 1, 2. So if we go there, remember we have our index that it's say 3, but we need 2. The main menu had 3 index, so this one would have only 2 index, so 0, 1, 2, so it's mean 3. And same thing here, we're just gonna make sure that our index is created. So we're gonna click on our button here, and we're just gonna create that variable. And now you can see that everything is getting created for us. It's fantastic. We're gonna go all the way down. We're gonna repeat the same process. So instead of a tree, here, we're going to put 2. And the number here are all good. So we're going to move a little bit on the side here to continue our code. And we have our button color here. Obviously, we're going to just right click and create a variable for it. Okay. So we have a new game button, our control button, and we have our quit button. But the quit button itself is right up here, if I'm right. So the main menu, we're on the main menu button or your quit button, depending on the name that you gave to it. So we're gonna go back there. So we only need 3, so we can remove an entire row here. Okay. So we have our new game button, which is good. This one we want the main menu button, which is our quit button here. If we go back here, we call that the quit button. I'm just gonna rename it to main menu because it's getting confusing. And we're gonna go back there. So now we can target and take our main menu button right here. And it should be 2, not 1. Let me go check. So button 0, 1, and 2. This one should be F2, not 3, because we only have 3 index. Perfect. So now it's renamed, go back there, and that should be fixed here. So same thing, we're gonna click on the button background unselected and just create a variable. We're gonna replace that button 2 here for erase by this main menu button. So we can just take it and drag it on the edge and it's gonna replace it. There we go. So now if we compile, it should be fixed for us. So it was just a little modification from our main menu button, but now everything should work perfectly for us. So we can try it out. So we're gonna compile, make sure everything is there. We're gonna go back to our map. So we have our character here. By pressing 8, we're gonna explode our character. We can see that the main menu is showing. So we can see that if we click, we have control. The main menu is showing. I mean, the control is showing, and when we click back, it's going back to the main menu. So we have to fix that little part because we want to go back to our normal menu. We don't want to go back to our main menu. Okay, that's why it's important to test every time. Well, first I believe we're gonna go to our control menu and just bring that to our bring that to this one here. So we're gonna go to our control, where it is right here. We have our control. So if we open it and go to the graph, and we'll go to our back button that is right here. So when we click on the back button, you see it's creating the main menu button. But this time we want to create the widget that is this one here. So very, very easy way to do that. We can just duplicate this one. Control and duplicate it again. So we're gonna go to our content browser here. We have our control. I click on it and duplicate that. It's gonna be the same, but this one, this time we'll just rename it to control 1, 2. Let's see, guide control. Perfect. So if we go back to our UDI widget here, right here, we're gonna go and zoom. When we click control widget here, we want to select our control widget die, so it's gonna bring us back to this one here, because in the where it is, I closed it by mistake. Our control die here. When we're gonna click on back, go back to the graph here, right here, we create a main menu. Now we're just gonna select our widget blueprint that say you died right here and compile. So now we're gonna go back to map and try that again. Press 8, we die. Now we don't have a cursor. We want to make sure that when we die, we have the cursor. Let me see if I just didn't do a little mistake here. Oh, here we go. For its reason, it was not showing. So we have a control. So if we click go in control, if we press back, it's going back to this menu, which is exactly what we want. Perfect. So we're going to back to UDI here, and I think we're good. We're just gonna double check here. Oh, here from remove from parent, we have a little modification to do because we don't have it. We need to make sure that when we remove that control die widget, we want to make sure that it's removing this timer here. Otherwise, we're going to be able to, with our joystick, the mouse, you don't really see it, but with the joystick, it's going to keep selecting the menu that it's in the back and not the one that we actually see. And it's going to cause some issue. So we're going to take our clear timer, should be right here, where it is, our clear timer. How I name it, right here. Set timer here. So we're just going to take our timer by event, which is right here. Get it, and we can now drag and search and do clear and invalidate. Here we go. Perfect, like this. So now it's gonna remove this widget. So now it's gonna cause no issue. So let's see. I'm gonna turn on my Xbox controller just to see if it's working. I'm gonna go to map and do play. So now I'm not gonna use the mouse. I'm gonna use my controller. And let's see, press A. So now we can see that there's some stuff. If I press, it'll bring me there. There we go. So it's kind of working, but we don't see the color when we go over. It's probably because we forget, or I forget, to put some color to it. So we're gonna go back to our UDI here, and it's probably here in the color that we forget. There you go. There's no color here, I believe. There we go. See, no color. So we're gonna fix that color. So make sure it's doing what we want for the color. So we want the color to be red for this one. So we're gonna make sure that it's red. Perfect. And okay, yeah, perfect. And the unselected. What was the unselected again? I think it was just white. We're gonna select white. There we go. Perfect. So we're gonna try that again. Just make sure that we're good to go this time. Seems that we're not good to go yet. There we go. So we're gonna go back there. For X reason, the color is not working, and it's inconvenient for sure. Oh my goodness. We'll put the alpha to 1. It's gonna help a lot, and we're gonna do that for the other one as well. Make sure that the alpha has 1, and let's try that again. And it should be good this time. Here we go. Now it's making more sense. There we go. Perfect. So it's working. Awesome. So we go. Perfect. It's working good. And if we press this, it should load back the map. Perfect. Awesome. So now we have our cursor that is working, and we have our controller that is working as well. So we should be good for that. And I think that's going to be this for this episode. We were able to do our menu here with mouse and also our controller. Obviously, we could change the color of that to make it the way we want. So let's see if we can just change the color here. So that's the letter color, so you can change that if you want. So what is my exemplar color? I just want to make sure that we have the good thing here. It's white like this. So on the text here, you can Make sure you put an outline if you want that. Look a little bit better. There we go, outline. There we go. Now let's look a little bit better. Okay, everyone, just before continuing our series here, I found a few little bugs in the game that were not set up correctly, so I just want to address those issues before we keep going. So the first thing is the music in the background. So when we press play here, we have a music playing in the background, and that music stopped at some point. If you have been following, you may not encounter that issue depending on the sound that you are using. So to fix that issue, we have to find the sound for that music that play in the background. So it was playing from the game mode main menu. So we have our sound here. So if you click on the browse icon here, you're gonna go directly to your sound. You can double click that sound and make sure that under sound you have looping. That box need to be checked so the sound is looping. And I also adjusted the sound here. Instead of 1, I put it at 0.2, so it's less loud on the ears. So I'm just gonna shut it down and go to the next one. So the next one that I found is that when we do play and click on new game here, it's not loading our game. That's an easy fix as well. So to fix that, we're gonna go to our main menu, which is WB main menu. And we have here our logic that when we click on new game, we're casting to our game instance. Just in case you have problem to find that, you go in designer here, you click on new game, you can just go all the way down and click here on click. It's gonna bring you exactly where it is. So we're casting to our game instance. However, each project can only contain one game instance, not two. And by default, it's set up to game instance instead of my game instance. So we have to tell our project that we want to use this one, because now it's set up to the other one, and every time we try to use it, this one doesn't exist and it's go to cast failed. So it's why it's never loading our map. So to make sure that we're selecting the my game instance, we're gonna go to edit, we're gonna go to project setting, go all the way to maps and mode, and here at game instance class, we need to make sure that we're selecting the my game instance and not the default one, which is game instance. Okay, take my game instance, and now when you click to load map, it should load this map right away. The other thing that I found is that when we do play on our main menu, we have our daily best score here, and this is flashing by default the text. But when we move our mouse away and go to the other one, it should stop the animation, but now it's not stopping the animation. Obviously that's already fixed. I will show you exactly what I did. Very simple as well. We're gonna go to our WB erase prompt, which is the menu to delete our game. And if we go all the way to this, we're gonna have the few change that I made here. So to reach that point, just in case, you can click here and go all the way down and on over. Gonna click on this, it's gonna bring you exactly where it is in the graph. So when we're overing, we play this animation, but we want that animation to stop when we click on this button. So same thing, we select the button, go all the way down to on over, and we just have to connect the on over to stop the animation, and this will fix the problem. So when we're overing, it's making the animation goes, and when we go on over, the animation stop. Okay, so it's fixing that problem. Also, when we do play, we have our text here, so our joystick was starting to here. So that can cause an issue in the way that sometime controller you click once and it's clicking twice. I have that issue with mine. Sometimes my key is very sensitive and I click one and it's clicking twice. So I don't want to erase my game right as soon as I go in that menu. So here on button index, where we have our switch on integer, we can go all the way down here. And instead of having 0 here, we're going to change that for 1, which do that when we start, our joystick is already on this button here. So if it's do a double click by mistake, it's not going to erase our game. It's going to go and just go back. Okay, so just to save a little headache that we can have, And you can do the same thing here. If you don't want to do a new game right away, you want to go in control. So you could go in the main menu and do the same thing in the main menu. We're going to go back to our index, the main menu, and you could change that number to 1, in which now you're going to see that joystick is starting on control. So once again, if you have an issue with my controller double clicking by mistake, it's not going to start in your game right away. It's just going to go to control, and you can just back out of it and do your thing. Okay, just in case you wanted to modify this. Okay,